It has left a scar on the lives of many. They grew up in a church where the offering plate was passed. And then the pastor got up and gave a passionate and fiery sermon on giving and tithing, and the offering plate was passed again. More guilt and more pressure was heaped on to give, and the offering plate was passed a third time. And this continued not just on one Sunday, but on most Sundays. Does God and His church only want my money? It certainly seems that way to some people, and perhaps it's because they grew up in a church where their church was misaligned on its priorities and on what it thought was important, and did kind of, if not outright say it, give the impression that God and His church only want my money. And who needs another entity in this world that's only after my money? We're in the middle of a 4-week mini-series here on biblical financial principles. And the Bible has a decent amount to say about money, and so we're looking at some of those principles. And if you're a Christian like me, then what the Bible says about money is really important. And even if you're not, there's still some great wisdom to be found in this ancient literature that has survived thousands of years. And what does this ancient wisdom, what can it still teach us to this very day? So even if you're not a Christian, I would encourage you to still tune in over these 4 weeks, and there's a lot to be learned. Last week we covered, we're going to cover it in 4 weeks, and last week we covered beware of the money you love. So if you missed that one, you can go back and listen to that. So the 4 total topics are: beware of the money you love, be wise with the money you manage, be generous with the money you have, and be prosperous with the money you make. And last week we tackled that: beware of the money you love. That loving money can cause you to do many harmful and foolish desires that can cause you to wander from things that are important, like faith and family, or even cause you to do things that are harmful or foolish and ruin you. Right? And so we got to be careful about the money we love. And if you are never content with the amount of money that you have, you will never be truly happy in life. But if you are content with how much you have, then you will always have enough. And so there are, the principles are ordered in the way that we have them listed for stylistic purpose, right? Beware, be wise, be generous, be prosperous. But we're going to take them in a different order. And the order we're going to take them is the warning, which was last week, right? Beware of the money we love. And then the antidote, which is going to be this week, right? To be generous with the money that we have, and then to make money and manage money, right? You gotta make it before you can manage it. And so we'll cover those over the next 2 weeks. And so the best way to avoid the love of money is to be generous with it, which is what we're going to talk about today. So the second principle that we're going to be talking about is to be generous with the money you have. And it's easy, I think, and natural to get into the mindset of all the money I have and earn is for my own consumption, right? It's my money. I don't owe anybody anything. Why should I give it away? It's my money. And you're right. It is your money. And if this is the attitude that we have, it's true. This is our money. Like if you've earned money, if you have money, if you made it, it's your money, and you don't need to give it to anyone. Which right away means that we need to clarify something that's really important. And that is the difference between giving and owing. Right? When we give our money, we are giving it. It is a gift, meaning freely under no compulsion. And maybe you've heard this, right? Maybe you've heard someone complain, I gave them a present for their birthday, but when mine came, they didn't give me anything. Or something like, they're getting me a Christmas gift, so I need to give them one. Listen, if we need to give someone a gift, then it's no longer a gift. If we are required to be generous, then it's no longer generosity. That's the whole point of giving and generosity, is that it is freely given. It is not something that is owed. If we feel obligated to give something, then we owe that to them, right? That's different. We're not giving, we are bartering. And so if we must give, it's not giving, it's owing. Wages are owed, right? When someone does something for you and you owe them wages, that is wages, not giving, right? If you're a business owner and people work for you, you don't give them a paycheck, right? They earned that. That's wages. They deserve that. And so when someone does something and someone owes them, gifts, wages are owed and gifts are offered, I think is the easiest way to think about it. Someone gives because they want to bless someone else, not because they need to. And the Bible knows this distinction, right? There's this well-known verse in the Bible that declares, for the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life, right? Wages are owed and gifts are offered. One cannot be commanded to give because then it's not giving, right? And so the Bible doesn't command us to give, in my opinion, right? It calls us to give. It encourages us to give, but it does not command us to give. So let's examine the why, the when, and the how we can give. So first, why we give. Before, and as I do often, right, before we get into why we give, first we got to make sure we break a common myth, and which is why we don't give, right? And so there's this myth out there, especially in Christian circles, that we give because God needs our money. Right? And we can get this message directly or indirectly, and often is used as a guilt trip by some churches or ministries where, hey, give us because God needs your help in fulfilling his mission on earth through us. No, that's not what the Bible teaches, right? God is very clear on this in Psalm 50. It says, I have no need of a bull from your stall or goats from your pens, for every animal in the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know every bird in the mountains, and every insect in the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and all that is in it. Right? If that were written today, right, that's written to an agrarian society with farms and all that. If that was written today, it might read something like this, right? I have no need of your cash in the offering plate or your automatic charitable gifts, for every dollar is mine, and then the balances in 1,000,000 banks. Everything in the world is already mine. So God does not need our money. God is not trying to have our money. God is calling us to ensure our money doesn't have us. Right? And so why we give is not because God needs it. We give because of not what it does for what it does for us as much as what it does for others. Right? When we give freely and generously, it demonstrates that we care about people and causes beyond ourselves. Right? Some see human suffering and they rant about it on social media. Some see human suffering and they give to organizations doing something about it. Who has the greater character, right? Those who complain about problems or those who care enough to give generously to solve them? And when we love others more than we love money, we will automatically be the kind of person who gives. It reveals something about ourselves. Do we give to our church then because we must? No. If giving were required, then they would have a cover charge at the door or a monthly membership fee. We give to our churches because we care about the mission of our church. We see how they're helping people and edifying communities, and we care about those people and the causes enough to want to support them. We desire to. We give to our churches because we desire to be part of that mission. And if we don't love our church enough to want to give to it, we must either examine our church to see if what they're actually doing in the world is something that we care about and want to be a part of, or, and probably more likely, we need to examine ourselves to see if we love people and the mission more than we love our money. And we want, and if you want more reasons to give, right, more than just caring about other people and stuff, more than our money, then the Bible's got a whole bunch of reasons, right? The Bible has many positive things to say about giving, those who give, and the blessings they will receive by giving, right? So here's just a few of them. Proverbs 3:9-10, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Again, farm culture, it's like, hey, but if you give, you're going to be abundant. Abundance will come to you, right? Psalm 37:21, the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. Proverbs 11, one person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper, and those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. Right? There's some connection, right? These are proverbs, not the principles, not promises, right? But there's some connection between those who are generous and what they get back, and those who are Scrooge-like with their money and what ultimately comes to them. Here's more. Those who are kind to the poor lend to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. Right? A generous person will be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. And lastly, a stingy person is eager to get rich and is unaware that poverty awaits them. Those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them will receive many curses. So even if we do, right, care about ourselves more than others, which is the natural state of man, it's not maybe the best, but maybe if we're honest, we're like, I don't really care that much about other people, but I do care about myself. Most of us wouldn't say it out loud, but maybe that's deep down what we know to be true. The Bible's still clear. Like, hey, there are blessings to those who are generous and potentially even curses to those who are not. And so we give because we are passionate about the causes and people and helping people that we're involved with, and because there will be great rewards and blessings for us when we are generous. So when do we give, right? And the biggest myth around giving is the when fallacy, right? When I reach this point, then I will give. When I make a little bit more income, then I'll give. When I have $1 million, then I'll start giving. And if that's our attitude, we will never give. If our attitude is when we reach a certain point, then we'll give, we will never give. Right? Ecclesiastes 5:10 says, whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. Again, that's the whole point, right? This is a recurring theme that if we love money, we're never going to be generous with it. We're always going to want more wealth, more income, and we'll never, ever be satisfied. If we're not giving now, no amount of income or wealth will ever be enough for us to start giving. And in Luke 16:10-13, Jesus says this. He says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you've not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And this is a key theme in the Bible that keeps coming back. If we love money, we will never be generous. And we will miss out on the blessings of giving, right? Because if we love money, we'll never have enough. And if we don't give in the little that we have now, we won't start giving when we have a lot more later. If we're not being trustworthy with the little we have, we're not going to be trustworthy when we have a lot more. It just doesn't work that way. And so the Bible never dictates, right, the amount of money that we should give. It never says, give 10 shekels per year, and then we could take that verse and, inflate it for inflation and bring it into our society, and therefore, we got to give $1,000 a year, something like that, right? It doesn't, it never says that, right? Because a prescribed amount would be difficult for those of little means and not generous at all for those of higher means. So what the Bible does do is it does give us the tithe. And you may have heard of this. It literally just means a tenth. And in giving 10% of income is a biblical benchmark, right? And people argue whether, we're still commanded to tithe, to give a tenth of our income. And then they argue about, well, if it is a tenth, is that a tenth on our gross income or a tenth on our net income, and all of these conversations completely miss the point, right? And the point is that we are called to be generous, which means that those with more will need to give more to reach that point than those who have less. And so when do we give? Now. There's no better time to give. There are lots of people in need, lots of things that do it, lots of causes that we could get involved in. Instead of just ranting on Facebook, we could actually give and make an impact in the world. And the best time to do that is now. You're never going to reach a point when you make enough or have enough to start giving. And so however it looks and whatever percentage you give, the point is to start giving now. And if you want to break your love of money, then to be generous with whatever money you have, right? And so how do we give? Right? And so this is the last section here. And the Bible makes this remarkable statement in 2 Corinthians, where it says this: remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly. And whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. All right, so if we want to reap generously, sow generously. And if we want to receive generously, then give generously. And so how do we give? Well, 2 steps that it tells us in there. Number 1, decide in your heart what you want to give. Decide in your heart what you want to give. Most people give nothing, right? And of those who give, it's often done sporadically. It's $50 here, $25 there. Somebody asks them, they feel kind of compelled, and so here's $100, go away. But the better way to give is to decide what you want to give, right? And deciding what you want to give means, one, you decide on the amount you want to give, right? I'm going to start, like, for example, right? You know what? I want you, right? I back in the day, I thought by this time I would be giving money, and I really haven't been. So what I want to do is I want to start by giving 1% of my income, and then increasing that by 1% every time I get a raise, right? Whatever it is, right? That's an example. But deciding in your heart, hey, I want to be a generous person. I want to be the kind of person who gives, the kind of person who loves God or who loves people, who loves other things more than money. And one of the best ways to do that is to give it. And so I want to decide on an amount that I'm going to give, right? And then also to decide on the place that we're going to give it. And that might be, I'm going to give it all to my church, or I'm going to give half of it to my church and a quarter to this specific organization and a quarter to this specific cause that I really care about. Because the whole world, right, and everybody wants you to care about everything all at once and give it everything all at once, and you just can't. We just can't. We're finite people with limited resources. But if we decide in our heart, hey, I want to give this amount and I want to give it to these few specific causes, that is more intentional. That is a better way to give. And maybe, right, maybe a portion of your giving is money that you just set aside for whatever comes up, because you want to be able to be spontaneous and if someone asks, to be able to give that to them. But that's still better. You still decide in your heart, hey, we're setting aside X amount per month or whatever that we want to be able to give to things as they come up. And that's a much better way of doing it. So we decide in our heart what we want to give, which means that we're deciding the amount we want to give and the place we want to give it. And when we're intentional about the amounts and the places we're giving, we're going to see more impact, both in our lives and the lives of the people and the causes that we're giving to. And it's just much more intentional, much better than the guilt giving that a lot of us do. And so number one, we decide in our hearts where we want to give. And number two, we give it cheerfully. Right? For God loves a cheerful giver. Giving is not a command. We don't do it reluctantly. We don't do it compulsively. We don't do it because we're guilty and because people are heaping on pressure and stuff for us to give, and we I should throw something in there. No, we do it cheerfully. We decide we decide the person we want to be is generous. We decide how much we want to give, where we want to give that to, and then we do it cheerfully. True giving is done cheerfully. So, if you want to be generous with the money we have, right? We want to break our love of money and receive untold rewards, and we need to give intentionally, give generously, and give cheerfully. Right? Now, all that means, and those who, again, have a little means will not be able to give as much as those who have more means. And so one of the things that we want to cover for sure is, what does the Bible talk about earning money? And so we covered, beware of the money you love, be generous with the money you have. And next, we want to look at how to be prosperous with the money we make. How to be prosperous. What does the Bible say about earning money and how much we should earn and all those things? And it has a lot of great wisdom for that. And so we'll see you next week for talking about the money we earn. See you next week. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did enjoy that, you would love being a part of our free membership community. It's called Retire Membership, and you can sign up today completely for free. When you do that, you get a host of bonus and exclusive content that we don't give out anywhere else. For example, you can buy my book, 3D Retirement Income, on Amazon, but if you become a Retire member, we will send you one for free or give you the audiobook and ebook just for signing up. You also get additional bonus content, exclusive content, including Client Corner insights from some of the best minds in behavioral investing, workbooks to go along with our workshops to help you get the most out of it, and more ongoing bonus and exclusive content. Some of this you can't get anywhere else, and so we would love for you to join our community. You can join now at retiremembership.com. Otherwise, there's a link in the description of this video where you can sign up. All we want to do is continue to give you the best information out there so that you can retire successfully and stay successfully retired. So you can go in there, do that on our website. There's also a longer form podcast. I think it's episode 80 that will help explain what it is and what we're trying to do with Retire Membership. But join now for free. Get this and much more exclusive content by joining us today. We look forward to seeing you there, and thanks for watching. Cheers.